Okay, so we've got a little bit of a hot topic to discuss today, and that is the role of the internet in the Orthodox life. There's a few questions within that general umbrella that I'd like to break down. Number one is, what is the place of the internet in the Orthodox spiritual life? Number two is, what is the role of Orthodoxy online? And number three, what are the pros and cons of internet orthodoxy? So there's an obvious matter that needs to be addressed before I get into anything really, and that is the fact that many more people are coming to the church specifically because of Orthodox content online, especially post 2020. That's just a fact, hard fact. Do with it what you will. You can't get away from that. So obviously, this is good, right? I'm not going to complain about people coming to the church, right? That's my whole shtick. That's why I do this. So this is good. Whatever gets people to come to the church is good. But here's what I will say. We cannot drink milk forever. Eventually, we need meat. And this is kind of what I was alluding to in another discussion video about apologetics. Apologetic stuff is good, but eventually you need the sacraments because that's the real medicine. That's really where you need to be. So Orthodox apologetics content is good insofar as it encourages investigation into the faith. But as I mentioned before, however, it can also be detrimental when it becomes like this compartmentalized intellectual project. This happens often with converts, myself included. Okay, like I was one of those people, so I'm not judging anyone. But eventually, we must physically go to church and be catechized. Now, obviously, there are pros and cons to certain figures in online orthodoxy. Catechumens want to teach before they've been received, and those with estranged views often get passed off as orthodox. So again, I'm not here to start drama or name names. That doesn't really matter. As with every human being, there are pros and cons to every Orthodox creator online, including myself. It is just good to be aware of these pros and cons before sending their content to others. What is edifying to one may not be edifying to another. Some people have a more emotional temperament, and others have maybe a little bit more intellectual temperament. Some people might just want the blunt, honest truth, and others want to feel like they're safe. So if we want people to be receptive to orthodoxy, these factors are very important to know about someone before recommending orthodox content to them. What are their needs? What will be received by them? And what will most likely pique their interest and get them to dig deeper and learn more? So, what about someone who's in the church? What is the role of online Orthodox content then? At that point, I think online Orthodox content can be a very good supplemental resource to attending church, but it cannot ever replace the church. So, Orthodoxy is incarnational. Theologically speaking, it doesn't work solely via the internet. This is why live streams will never convey the fullness and beauty of liturgy completely. It just can't. One cannot receive the sacraments online. So we must budget our content consumption intake in general. While learning about orthodoxy may be exciting for a newcomer, we must temper our desire to learn everything there is to know. The zeal is good, but we must take our time and digest the food that we receive, because we cannot be so gluttonous that the food isn't even being consumed. Books are like this too. For example, if you read Unseen Warfare like it's a novel, if you read it too fast, you're reading it wrong. More broadly, during fasting seasons, it wouldn't be a bad idea to discuss with one's spiritual father, perhaps limiting social media or other internet content. I've done this in the past and I've found it edifying, and so I continue to do so. Online content may play a different role for different people at different stages. When first learning, One might listen to a lot of catechetical content. Once received into the church, one might want to focus on the lives of the saints, or perhaps listen to a homily. All in all, I think it's a massive blessing that Orthodox content is so readily available online. However, it comes with a few major drawbacks, namely that it cannot be an end in and of itself. We must go to confession, we must attend the liturgy, we must receive the Eucharist. However, we receive the content that is out there, we must do so with the understanding that it is merely supplemental to what the church offers in person. I think online Orthodox content is good, but we have to know how to use it. And sometimes that requires discernment. Sometimes that requires conversations with one's priest. We have to be self aware enough to know when content is affecting us negatively or when we are just consuming too much of it. Sometimes you shouldn't be consuming all this stuff if you're not actually digesting it. One thing that I thought about is it's kind of similar to smartphones. Smartphones are designed for you to be addicted to them, to get onto social media, to get onto, you have to have all the apps, you have to do all the things, you got to play the games, you got to do everything on the phone and be on there at all times. All the apps are designed to keep your attention. Some people will take this and say, okay, I can't handle that, so I'm going to get a dumb phone. I'm going to get a phone that doesn't even allow me to do that. But I think in some cases, it might actually just be better to keep your smartphone and to instead build the self control to resist the urge to use certain apps. And you can also get prayer apps. You can get the Bible on your phone. You can get a lot of good Orthodox Christian content on your phone, and it can be very redeeming. The same is true with Orthodox content online. I think the fact that it's available is great, but it is what you make it. You can become addicted to it. You can miss the entire point of it, or you can use it as a tool to help aid you in your spiritual life. That's really my encouragement, is to think about the fact that this is a tool and we have to use the tools properly. And sometimes we need spiritual guidance to do so. It's not bad that the tools exist. We just have to know how to use them. That's really all I have to say. Again, nothing rocket science here, but I just wanted to offer my 2 cents, as there can be some pitfalls. And I want to make sure that hopefully people are aware of these things and avoiding those pitfalls and using Orthodoxy, using content online to better engage with their spiritual life and come closer to Christ. And that's all. Thanks for listening.